Breaking news, shots fired at a Contra Costa County BART station. Chaotic moments when police opened fire on a suspect who jumped on the tracks. And the question tonight, was the suspect armed? Plus, two women attacked just minutes apart on San Francisco's Embarcadero in broad daylight. The arrest made in these shocking assaults.
It's terribly shocking. I know people who jog here, and I walk here frequently.
And the Bay Area experiencing one of the driest Februaries in a long time. How long the dry conditions are expected to last. And thank you for joining us. I'm Juliette Goodrich. We begin with breaking news in the East Bay. An investigation underway right now after police fired a suspect who jumped onto the tracks of a BART station in an apparent attempt to get away. It happened at the El Cerrito del Norte BART station around 2 this afternoon. The station has since been closed. KPIX 5 Joe Vazquez is live at the scene with late breaking details for us. Joe.
And Juliette, the station is still closed. As you can see, there is a large police presence here as they're investigating this officer-involved shooting. And police say this started around 2 o'clock this afternoon when they got a call for a domestic disturbance on board the train. An argument between a young man and a woman. The BART police chief says officers arrived here with guns drawn and confronted the suspect. Now, what happened next? We talked to several witnesses about that, including one who did not want to be identified.
The train operator let us know we will be held here for a couple of minutes. Literally after that transmission had went off, you hear them running. And then that's when they ran out, so then that's when I went out behind them, and then the shots just went off. As soon as I poke my head out, all you hear is about 6, 7 shots went off. About 7, 8 times. And then when you just smell gunpowder. Horrible. It was horrific. They didn't have to do that to him. They didn't.
The young man jumped on the tracks and kept running and was asked to stop, but chose not to.
What do you think about all this right here?
You know, I appreciate what our police department is. They keep us safe. There's always two sides to every story. I just saw my angle. I don't know what went down prior to that.
Is it possible the young man pulled his weapon and that they were reacting to that?
No, he was on the train with his girlfriend. They were finna ride the BART train just like everybody else. And you can clearly see that he wasn't trying to pull out his weapon or anything, because as he was running from the police, he was holding on to his pants. He didn't want it to come out because he knows when he jumped down in the tracks, it must have came out of his pocket, and that's what pursued them to start shooting.
An ambulance rushed the young man to the hospital with critical injuries. We talked to several witnesses who said that the young woman who was with him was screaming. She was yelling out to officers and to anyone who would listen that he was too young for this, that he was 17 years old. We're still trying to verify his age with authorities. And speaking of authorities, the police chief of BART, Ed Alvarez, he held a news conference here just a few minutes ago, just before this newscast. Here's how he explained the confrontation.
The officers got onto the platform, challenged that individual, who then ran off the train, down the platform, and onto our trackway, at which point a gun was produced by the suspect, and our officers ultimately shot, recovering a gun, and the suspect has now been transported to the hospital with life-threatening injuries.
We asked the police chief to elaborate on what the phrase that he used, which is that the suspect, quote, produced the gun. Did it mean that he pointed it at police officers or in a way that threatened them? The police chief said he wasn't going to elaborate until he had a chance to actually see the cameras, Juliette, that are supposed to be on the tracks and that might have caught this entire incident on surveillance camera.
Right, that will produce some information, and obviously the weapon has been recovered and there'll be an investigation. And so where you are right now, what happens with train service? I know it's been shut down for quite some time now.
Right, we're going on 3 hours with the train being shut down, and it is still shut down. What BART tells us is they're trying to open one of the tracks so they can at least get trains going back and forth on one of the tracks, as the officers are literally up there on the tracks as we speak, investigating this shooting.
All right, we'll continue. We'll follow up on this at 6 o'clock and throughout the evening. Joe, thank you so much.